Let's handle the cases now where either the parameter is missing or there's no value set. Basically we're going to have two of these, but I'm going to split them up because there's a lot of similar items between the two. So if you can imagine that if the parameter was missing, I'd have a response error, a response message parameters missing, and then echo that out. Or if there was no value set, I'd have response fail error, a response message no variable present, and echo that out. So rather than have 6 lines of code which basically do the same thing wrapped up in an if statement, I'm going to start splitting these things up. So both of them, if you think about it, both of them are going to contain this. Both cases are going to contain the fail and error, and both of them are going to contain the JSON response. The only thing that's really going to change is this the message that we send back to the caller. So as they both contain this, I'm going to place my if statement after it so that that is set up for either case. What I'm going to do is check to see if this has been set. Okay, if it has been set and there's an error, it can only be the fact that the value is missing. So I'm going to check for that now, and it's exactly the same as we did above. We're only rewriting this. We're just checking that, and then we're checking that, but we're going to sort of check that and then assume that that is the other case. So rather than write out 2 statements. So I'm going to write if. Now again I need to delete that, and what I want to do is place that end curly brace before the echo JSON response, because both of them are going to set up the message differently, and then both of them are going to use exactly the same thing here. So as I've set that up before the if statement, I'm setting that up after the if statement to because both of them use the same thing, and I'm only going to test or set these different values here. So I'm going to use my get response, and I'm going to check for the last name. I could have just copied from above. So there you go. If last name is set, which I've managed to forget to put on the front, is set. That's better. So if the last name has been set, then what I want to do, so if it is set, then the only reason that we could have an error is if this value is missing. So I'm going to type that out. The value is missing. And again, I'm going to have an else clause, which is now going to be the case when I may have a value, but I may have made a spelling mistake here. So I'm going to copy that line and place it there. And I'm going to say that the parameter is missing. So hopefully I didn't make that too confusing for you. So the first one checks to see if this has been set. The only reason it could be unset is if it wasn't present or if there was a spelling mistake. If it is set, then obviously the value is missing. If there is a spelling mistake, then it's this line that would be executed. It's the else part, and we can say that the parameter is missing, and then it's going to send back to my program what the response is. So I've probably made that a little bit more complicated than it should be, but I think if you read through the code there, you'll get what I'm trying to get at. So if I save that now, and we can test that out. So again, let's make sure it works for everything. There we go. So if both the parameter and the value are set, we get the data back. If I make a spelling mistake, then it says I failed, the parameter is missing, okay? Or if I manage to put that spelling correct and miss out the value, so I don't send in a value, it says the value is missing. And if I miss out both, it just says the parameter is missing because it expected the parameter as the first one. So I've managed to handle that. Pretty much done now as far as this is concerned. What I really need to do now is talk to the database. I am going to start changing my query here, because really what I want to do is select all the fields from person. Because I've now got a last name, I'm going to type where last name equals, and I've got to put my last name that I get from the URL into here. Remember, this only gets executed if we have both the parameter and the value, so I can be assured that I've got a value. Whether it's sensible or not is another matter. So I need to have the variable here, so I need to pick the variable up from here and store it. So that's my next task. Let's make a few lines so I can make it clear. So a good name for it is last name equals, and I just need to copy this and paste it there, not forgetting to put the semicolon on the end. Now I have the last name. Now the query, when I execute the query, or when I use the query, let's come back to this one, this will be good. The query needs to be written out like this: select star from person where last name equals Smith. I have to enclose my variable and make it a string. If I just tacked on at the moment here, if I just concatenated that with last name, then that would not put the speech marks around, and we can see that. So if I just do a quick echo statement here so that we can see the results of that. Echo query, save this and run it. So if I now put last name equals Smith, there we get select star from person where last name equals Smith. There are no speech marks around, and obviously we get a fail message following that up. So this is going to be quite tricky, particularly when you are perhaps changing the fields or changing the table, is splitting this up, managing to concatenate it and putting all the correct speech marks back in. So the way to do this, put the speech marks back into concatenation, is before we end the statement, I'm going to put a speech mark in. Now, because these are double speech marks, to be able to actually have a single one, the name enclosed in speech marks, I've got to use the single one. I've got to use an opposite one. After last name, so at the moment if I run that query Well, you'll see what happens. Let's do it. I should only have the single one at the front. There we go. I've just got one quote mark. To get the second quote mark, I've got to concatenate on the end inside a pair of double quotes a single quote. Now this can get rather confusing, particularly when we're trying to join a lot of items into your query string. That can get quite annoying, and you can make a lot of mistakes working this out, so please be careful with these. So that will do it. If I save it and run it, we should now see the query has got quote marks around it, and not only that, it's actually worked and it's pulled back the information that I need. So really I need to just get rid of this and my entire thing will work. So let's get rid of this line. There we go. Let's save it, and then we know that we can run that and we get Smith. So now we can just do a quick check on all the different names that are in the database. So I've got Negus in there. Now I'm going to put Negus as lowercase n and see if it's case sensitive, and it's not case sensitive because Negus was a capital N in the database. That's fine. The other one that I had in there was blogs. So there we go. I've got blogs coming back. What happens if I put a non-existent name in there? There we go, no results returned, it didn't find anything. So that's working really, really nicely. We're getting the information we want back. Not very happy that I'm having to type it on here all the time. I prefer a program to do it. We're going to do that in Python. But just to check it out, I'm probably going to do a quick web form and submit the name in a web form to make sure it works. So that will be in the next video.